Today we're looking at Psalms 45. Much like 44, and unlike 43 and the ones before it, it's not strongly emotive as much as it is now strongly kind of informational, but with feeling. In 44, we talked about how wonderful Elohim is, how wonderful God is, and how even though we feel like there are times when our backs are not turned, that we are not in iniquity, still, where is our God? But we wait on that God who is making us wait. Can God do that? Does he have to have a reason? Does it have to be us? Or can we be patient? 45 is actually a beautiful psalm, and I've used beautiful a lot in this. But it talks about the king and the king's daughter. Now, we know that Christ didn't have any daughters, but we can see that, that the greatest king is God. And we're relying on, and we're looking at how beautiful the daughters of God. So if you wanted to draw a spiritual analogy with the New Testament, this is what this would be about. But my heart is talking about a good thing. He's talking about how fairer than the children of men, grace is poured out on my lips. Gird my sword with my thigh, O most holy, with the glory of thy majesty. And in thy majesty ride prosperously. We're talking about a warrior king. We're talking about a king that can ride with his majesty, with his glory. He girds his sword on his side. And he's going and riding with majesty, with meekness and righteousness. Now we see there's an interesting dichotomy. We tend to then think that meekness is softness, and these people don't fight. They kind of say please and thank you a lot. Meekness is calmness. If I were to say meekness, another good word for it is stoicism. Almost emotionless, not in the sense of not having emotions, but not letting emotions run your life. So meekness would be the opposite of this hyper emotive state that people get in and start thrashing about. So here we see, I'm going to take stoicism, sternness, focus. You're being meek, you're not being demonstrative. What you say goes, where you move, what you do. And so meekness needs to be taken away from a Clark Kent persona and put on Christ as a matter of stoic, forthright, purposed meaning. Thine arrows are sharp in the heart of thy king's enemies, whereby the people fall under thee. Thy throne is forever and ever. The scepter of thy kingdom is a right scepter. He will deal with righteousness. Thou lovest righteousness and hateth wickedness. If you want to love this God, you need to love righteousness. You need to hate wickedness, not hating the wicked people. People can't help it if they're wicked because of their sin, but yet the wickedness that enthralls them, that subdues them, that they are conquered by, is something that we need to fight. All of his garments smell like myrrh and aloes and cassia out of ivory palaces. He has this strong, manly, beautiful smell. The king's daughters among the most honorable women. Again, these women are honorable. They walk with purpose, and they walk with strong femininity. They walk with beauty and grace. They aren't forthright, contentious, nagging, complaining. So shall the king greatly desire thy beauty, for he is thy Lord, and worship thou him. These daughters worship him, O daughter, it's saying here. And it talks about the king's daughters is glorious. Within her clothes are wrought gold. She is wearing the finery. She is wearing the best that the king can provide. With gladness and rejoicing shall they be brought, and they shall enter through the king's palace. The goal of all of us is to be his workmanship, so that he might present us as beautiful vessels of honor to his Father, to say, look what I did, look what I built, look what I accomplished. We are that workmanship. And he talks about that. And so the idea of these daughters being presented in beauty. Beauty is something each one of us Christians should aspire to. But it's especially, we see that it's especially for the daughters of the king. Finishing off Exodus today, 39 and 40. Once again, don't just breeze past it. We're double checking Betsael and Aholivah. We're making sure that they've done it right. They take the blue and the purple and the scarlet, and they create the garments for the priesthood. They make the breastplate. Again, it has that onyx, which is something that you can put these 12 plates on, and each one of the plates had a different stone, had a different name. of a son of Jacob, the 12 tribes of Israel. And when he stood in the Holy of Holies, he's bearing the name and the brilliance of these tribes to the Holy of Holies, as he has sprinkled blood for their sins and for his own, which is something Christ did not do. And he stands before the Holy of Holies in righteousness, that the nation is seen as righteous. This is very important. He talks about the epoch, talks about the pomegranates and the bells, that they can be heard not just in the temple, but wherever they're wearing these. You can hear that the priests are going about their duties. They're going about their business. They're tingling. It's a beautiful sound. Again, these guys are clean. They look good. They smell good. They have beautiful clothes on. They're in a beautiful area. They're surrounded with a beautiful, and the aesthetic beauty. Again, I've mentioned the golden mean, the golden ratio that this building would have. It's 10 feet by 10 feet by 30 feet, a beautiful rectangular building that's enclosed. And later on, its brilliance would be seen even more in the temples that were built, especially by Solomon. And Messiah will make his own temple. So there's actually two temples coming. One will be built, and then Messiah will make one. So we have that. There'll be a temporary temple made, but Messiah will make one, and that one's recorded in Ezekiel 40 through 48. He talks about finishing. It says that they have this epoch that they're wearing, and it said holiness to the Lord is written upon the epoch. So he is making this nation holiness unto the Lord. That's something they should be proud of. It's like wearing a jersey, but only this one person's wearing it, of course. Holiness to the Lord, that this nation would be holy to the Lord. And we finished the tabernacle here in 32. And then they brought all the pieces. Like I said, they made these pieces in different parts. They carved off. They have not assembled yet. But they used the design to put the things on the edge of the wood so they would catch with one another. Remember, they catch and uncatch. You have the loops and the facets are all on the curtains, so they can latch together and then be unlatched. They've got all that ready to go. They've got all the spoons and bowls and all the tables, and they've got the Ark of the Covenant ready to go. It's already in gold, and you have the giant the cherubim sitting there in one piece of gold on side of the Ark of the Covenant. They have the garments are ready. All that's left is to consecrate. All that's left to assemble and consecrate. Thus, with all this work of the tabernacle done, we're in 39, 32. Did according to all that the Lord commanded Moses, so they did. So the guys get an A+. They hit the mark with everything they built for this thing, everything that the people came together. And like I said, we're looking at about 9 months that they just got together and assembled this exactly to the plan that God had wanted them to do. So they brought the tabernacle, the tent and its furnishings, and you give a long list of all of this from 32 through 40. And the hangings in the courts, the golden altar and the anointing oil, the sweet incense, the hanging of the doors. They brought everything they needed to assemble. And then in 40, and according to all that the Lord commanded, so they did all the work. And Moses did look upon all the work, and behold, it was done as the Lord had commanded. Even so, they done it, and Moses blessed the people. Good job. And the Lord said, on the first day of the first month, set up the tabernacle. Okay, so here we are, the first day of the first month. Now remember, in the book of Nisan would now become the first month. So that's where I'm getting the 12 months from there. But then they were 3 months getting to Sinai and going through some struggles. So about 9 months they put all this together. And then he goes through again. Here's how I wanted to put it together. And you'll put the Ark of the Testimony and cover the Ark with a veil. So you're starting again with the Ark of the Covenant, and now you're assembling it out and you're putting it together as you're going around. And you'll set the Ark, and you'll set up the altar of gold and the incense and the Ark of the Testimony, and put the hangings of the doors on the tabernacle. So you build all of that, build the tabernacle. And now you're working on the gates. And it goes down, and you'll have the anointing oil. Get ready. You're going to have to start anointing people. And you'll anoint the altar. So we're anointing the altar before we use it. We're anointing everything we're going to use and touch. And anoint the laver and his foot and sanctify it. And put Aaron and his sons into the door of the tabernacle. Wash them. and put upon them their garments. And they will bring their sons and clothe them with their coats and anoint them as you did anoint your father. So we're really getting things going now. We're putting all the pieces in place. And Moses did according to all that the Lord commanded him. I think that, except for what he did with striking the rock, and we'll talk about that in another book, he was known as someone who did as the Lord commanded. He didn't add to it. He didn't take from it. He only negotiated for the righteousness of God. When God wanted to leave the Israelites and say, I'll start over with you, he goes, you can't. You already swore. You swore that you would make of these people. And the nations will say, he just brought them out here to wipe them out. They will not say good things about you. You are not glorified by this action. So it came to pass in the first month in the second year, on the first day of the month, that they reared it up. You think of this Amish where they did the barn raising. Well, here's what you've got. The people are together, and there must have been screams and shouts as the nation watched, as all of a sudden this thing started taking shape, and all of a sudden things are coming up and building and latching. Then we're throwing these things over, and we're ratcheting them down. Then we throw over the goat's hair. Then we throw over the ram skin. Then they throw over the badger skin. And they have all this stuff that's been put in place. Now you have the laver out here, and you have the place for washing, and you're starting to see the parameter being set up. I mean, the joy of all of this going together is passed over by many of us Christians who just fly by this on our way to the cross. And here we have, he talks about this piece by piece because it's a beautiful moment. They're rearing it up correctly. They put the ark in the tabernacle. He put the table in the tent of the congregations upon the side, on the north side without the veil. That's where they put the showbread. And on the south side was the candlestick. And they lit the candles. And they put the golden altar before the veil. And they started doing incense. They didn't wait to worship. As soon as they got this thing up, they're burning incense to God. And that sweet incense, and they did the hanging of the door. And he put the altar of burnt offerings by the door of the tabernacle, and offered upon it burnt offerings and meat offerings. They had the bullocks and the rams ready to go. Everything was set. The joy of, okay, we're bringing these bullocks now. We're bringing in these rams. We're not waiting a minute to worship this wonderful God who has led us out and has chosen us to be his people. There is a level of excitement that we pass on. Like I said, it's really tragic. And they set the laver and the altar and put water in it to wash withal. And Moses and his sons washed their hands. Here they are preparing. We're going to get clean to do the work of God. And they went into the tent of they went into the tent of the congregation. And when they came to the altar, they washed as the Lord commanded. And they reared up the court. And now, see, you've got all these people moving in and moving these in. Now you're rearing up these courts. Now you're building that courtyard and the hangings. So you started with the Ark of the Covenant, the insides, you did the tabernacle, you did the outsides, then you reared up the sides. And a cloud covered the tent of the congregation, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. So they had this cloud that you could not even, you could see, but imagine of a cloud that's in there. And Moses was not able to enter into the tent of the congregation because of the cloud and the glory of the Lord, the acceptability. We forget that even though these people will show themselves to be sinful and they will wander to their death, at least one generation, and they will take these lands. Well, there will be struggle. They will make a covenant with the wrong group of people. They will lose some battles because of their sin, but here is acceptability. Genesis ends in a coffin. Exodus ends in acceptability. Jesus, the resurrection, ended in a coffin. But now there's acceptability. We're seeing a pattern being laid here. And so the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle, and this was giving a longer, it didn't happen that day, but this is what would happen. Is the children of Israel would go forward. If the cloud wasn't taken up, the cloud stayed in the tabernacle, they stayed. And there would be light at night from there. A supernatural fire would be there. But the cloud wasn't taken up, they stayed. For the cloud of the Lord was upon the tabernacle by day, and fire by night, in the sight of all the houses of Israel throughout all their journeys. So wherever you went, You could look in the direction, and we'll talk about that in Numbers, about where people put their houses around the tabernacle. You could see, past the tents and stuff, you could see the light of the tabernacle. You could see the cloud. I don't know if it was like a mushroom cloud. It might have been something like that you could see from afar off, or a giant smoky haze. Maybe not smoke colored, maybe more like a white puffy haze. But the idea is that you could see it, and this would be seen. They were accepted. We are accepted. That's the end of Exodus, and that's the good news here. Thank you.